Do you not have cute band-aids?
Um, like I don't spend a lot of time. I went through a phase where I was into cute band-aids. Like that was like one of the things I used to buy in the dollar
Tarjay?
bin, the dollar bin at Target. And so no, now I just like have like a first aid kit and whatever's in there. Actually, the ones in the first aid kit does have one packet of like colorful ones, but other than that, it's just like the waterproof ones and the non-waterproof ones and the big and the little,
I
Yeah.
don't acknowledge band-aids that don't have cute cartoons on them. In that case, there are no band-aids.
You and
I
Minnie
won't
are going to
use
be
them.
best friends. Well, Minnie just like she wants to collect band-aids like they're stickers. Like if she's good, can I have a band-aid? You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing, right? Speaking of Minnie, I the that show that you were the first person to bring up to me, but like Jana brought it back to me last week, and I watched the whole thing in like a day and a half. Government Cheese is
Yes.
literally all about Chatsworth, and there are so many references, not just to things and places I talk about, but to like exact people. There's a character named Minnie in there. There, like my grandmother's temple gets robbed. Like my like there's like all of these like very sort of either personal references or like other iterations of what I said, like another version of what I mean, right? It's like almost startling. Jeff is like, this is the best Emily Moyer Truman show ever.
I'm telling you, it's time for them to start paying us for our free consulting work.
Right? Yeah. Yep. What's going on, dear? Hi, everybody. Have we landed? Are there folks in the? Yes, we've
We
got
have
31 in the
Thor,
classroom already. Hello,
Dr.
everybody. Good evening.
Laura, Michael. Hey, Michael.
Good
Mauricio.
evening. Mario, Jana, Steve, Dead Star Cave Girl. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. We've got a lot of clips to share, but do we have any like absolute nonsense to banter about before we get into said plethora of clips, or should we just gorge ourselves on clips tonight?
Well, we did just spend Monday together, so I feel like we probably caught up on all the juicy
It's
stuff.
true. And if you guys go to wordspodcast.locals.com tomorrow and if you're already a member, that's great. But if not, use the promo code welcome to words, all one word and capital. You will find yourself some shit pickles there. There you go.
Great plug.
All right. Well, then let's just go let's go whole hog on the clips here. And where would you like to start? I have like probably too much Israel related content, but like some of this stuff is so obscene that it was like driving by a car accident. I couldn't stop looking, right? It's just becoming so naked. So I have clips in three different videos from Glenn. It's like some of the videos I have two little parts clipped or whatever. They're all sort of Israel related. And then I have Jillian Michaels on Joe Rogan, and I have Dave Rubin whoring himself. That's not a clip, that's a post. What would you like to start with? Or do you have something you want to start with?
No, no, no. Let's start with yours. But I'm curious, can you give me like a two-sentence Cliff Note Jillian Michaels summary?
Like what she is?
Correct.
Okay, so she was the female personal trainer on The Biggest Loser, which is like that famous weight loss show on NBC for like 15 years.
Okay.
She's also like, so it was her and Bob, right? And so that's how she became famous. And then also she's a lesbian, and so like she has like the lesbian Hollywood celebrity thing going on, right? And then she's
Isn't that
also,
odd that's a marker?
but she's not the only one. Remember, there was that other one, Jackie Warner, also had a reality TV show about her.
No.
Um,
I
yeah,
don't know any of these people.
this was all like NBC and Bravo shit in the early 2000s.
The only thing I know of Jillian Michaels is some like Senate hearing railing on about like healthy food. And I recognize that she's pretty, but I don't understand why we're
Yeah,
supposed to
so she
care.
was on the Biggest Loser, which is probably like the most significant sort of weight loss show that's ever like been on TV. So like
Wait, there are multiple weight loss shows on TV?
That's like the only one that I think that's been on prime time. I'm sure there have been others on like reality or, different kinds of cable channels. But she and Bob became pretty big stars for that. But she has been a public health figure for 20 years at least.
Okay.
So it does like she's not out of place on Joe Rogan or in Congress, if that even makes any sense, talking about health related issues. That
Okay.
the switch that has happened in the last couple of years is that she has quote woken up, right? But she also happens to be Jewish, so she is part of that same network of people who are like, truthful about everything except for one thing type
So
of thing.
she's a Zionist.
Correct. I mean, but I think she was brought into the fold a little bit later. Like, how like at a certain point they brought Dr. Drew into the fold? Like she came
Yes.
like after Dr. Drew. She was like in the next class, right? She's like one of the more recent groups, people to come in. And I think they have cast her in the role of being less belligerent about it. Like she had Candace Owens on her podcast recently, and I didn't listen to the whole thing. I don't know if they even talked about that. But like, whereas all the other people won't talk to Candace now because she's not pro-Israel, like I think that they're trying to like, you know, to send someone in who is not so obviously rabidly pro-Israel, who can have reasonable conversations with people to start. I think maybe they're starting to realize they got out a little far over their skis and it's like a little too obvious, but they
Okay.
don't want to dial it back in any meaningful way. They just want to, like use the lesbian to dial it back a little bit kind of thing. I don't know, whatever it is. Um,
Okay.
so, that I feel like that's her trajectory. It's like she's from the like health and fitness department of PragerU,
Got it. Okay.
right? Something kind of like that. That's the best that I can kind of do. But she's been on all the shows. She's been on Bill Maher. She's been on, now she's on Joe Rogan. She's been on Dave Rubin. She's been making the circuit.
Rounds.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
So let's just start with her then, since we just talked about that, and she's talking, of course, about one of our favorite guys. So I think if we do it little tiny like this, we don't get a strike. So here we go. Let's see. There he is.
See ya.
You too.
We were just talking about boomers. About
Pause.
parents that
Pause. Did you optimize the sound?
Oh, I forgot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Boop. All right. Here we go. Okay. Now it's doing weird stuff. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay.
They don't want to believe anything other than what they're getting from the news.
It's been a challenge. My dad is an absolute lost cause. My mom is now open to the conversation, and she'll send me a bunch of different articles, and then she'll allow me to disseminate from my perspective. But it's been a rough ride.
Yeah, I've got them on peptides now, which is nice.
Same.
And I've got my stepdad on testosterone replacement, which is nice, and he's seeing benefits of those things. So it's like they're slowly starting to incorporate some of these things, but their whole life they've been told that the doctor knows everything and that the news is always correct and anything contrary to the news is bullshit.
But arguably, when our parents were our age, it was reliable.
I don't think so.
No?
No, I think it's always been compromised. I just think there was no alternatives.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I think.
My mom is a psychoanalyst, PhD. This is a very educated, thoughtful woman. And
Sometimes that's the worst.
no, I would argue against in this case. I do appreciate people who see flaws in psychoanalysis, but I've learned a huge amount from my mom in this area. And she also, she majored in journalism before changing careers to psychoanalysis. And so for her to even wrap her head around the fact that journalism can be compromised is almost inconceivable.
Right. I didn't mean psychoanalysis is bad. What I meant is that a lot of times educated people defer to other educated people. Like they're an expert in their field, so they assume that all the other experts in their field are also correct. And any heretic is just a fool.
I would happen to agree with that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we were talking about Fauci on the way in, and both of my parents could arguably canonize the guy, you know, or now I think I've broken through with my mom, but it has taken me.
We need a Jillian Michaels drinking game whenever she says the word arguably.
Right? Okay. Well, this can cross with our other person who we do drinking games about. So
Since your episode with Brett Weinstein in March of 2020, I have been working on it. We're getting there, though. We're there. Like we are there. It's been 5 years.
Isn't that crazy? That was 5 years ago.
It was like yesterday. I'll never forget it.
5 years ago. And I remember when that episode came out, people were freaking out. Like, what are you doing? What is Brett doing? This is bullshit. You're going to get us all killed.
It made perfect sense to me.
Well, he was right, clearly. And yet still, no apologies, no corrections, except the government website. The COVID-19 website is now up, and this has to be because of Bobby Kennedy.
I mean, the New York Times was like, oh, looks like this came from a lab. It's like, you really?
Well, the best part about it was they're like, we
that
were
out?
misled. Yeah, you were misled by you fuckers.
I know.
You
okay,
did.
so that's all. They we could listen to a little bit more, and they go into nonsense about how she believed in the vaccine in the beginning and whatever. But I feel like suddenly history has been rewritten, and Brett was the first person to call COVID an op.
Yep.
Right? That's what that just was.
Yep.
Right there. Like obviously she hasn't seen the uniform that Brett was wearing when he went on.
The
So that's
revisionist
her job.
history.
So bring her in to rehabilitate the people who have beclowned themselves.
Yes. Sounds
And to
about right.
And to revise history.
Yep.
Brett Weinstein woke me up.
Wow. Well, because we know he can't be duped.
Can't be duped.
Can't dupe him.
Can't be duped. Yeah. So she's sitting there with the straight face. I'm just gonna talking about how like the thing he was so right about that was so dangerous was lab leak, right? And of course, there's no conversation about how he was sitting there with his bandit mask on while he.
I have a challenge for anyone in our beloved chat audience. If you find a photograph of Brett Weinstein with the red bandana and the goggles, and you send it to me, I will send you one of whatever book of mine of your choice that you would like for free.
Isn't it? And I think it's in some of our shows.
But I don't have it. Do you? We don't even have show notes. We don't even know what we talk about one show to the next. If you find it, Emily, I'll send you the book.
Okay, I'm pretty sure like there's a Twitter video out there of him doing
Correct.
that. Yes.
But who posted it? And where is it?
Okay, yeah, so I feel like somewhere like about 5 or 6 months ago on this show, you could find the video literally within this show, resend it separately to Dani or I, and then, right? And Dani will reward you handsomely.
Exactly. Thank you, DePuma. DePuma's on it.
All right. DePuma will have it by the end of the show.
And I also, Kathleen Smith, I know we're like breaking format, says Zionism is not Judaism. Zionism is a political movement, and Judaism is a religion. Why do people do not get this? I'm sure that was an error. Thank you for the super chat, Misty Moon. I think that's really important because you did say Jillian Michaels is a Jew. You and I are both Jews, but we're not Zionists. And yes, very
100%.
important
Yes.
to differentiate.
Huge distinction. And also, like, I don't like, maybe that's part of the softening move here. She doesn't seem to be a rabid Zionist, right? And so, like, you know, she seems to be like Zionist adjacent, right? So I think that's part of why she has been selected for this role. But yes, absolutely. There's lots of people who are Zionists who are not Jewish.
I would say right now the most vocal Zionists, Jordan Peterson, RFK, are not Jewish,
yeah.
which I think makes it all the more offensive. Like,
Yeah.
we don't need you. We're not some second class of like ghetto slugs. Go away.
Well, Glenn has got you covered today. So
All right, give us
want to
Glenn.
start with Glenn? All right, let's start with it. We're just going to go right down the strip here. So, all right. Here we go. This is Glenn Greenwald. And yeah, let's hear this. Basically, all of my Israel clips today are just a demonstration of like how buffoonish everything has come, where it's like literally the same, you know how there's all these policies and rules that they want to pass. that basically criminalizes or indicts anybody who has wrong think about Israel. But like literally Glenn's whole show yesterday was like showing examples where the Israelis or the Zionists themselves are saying exactly the thing that now other people can get in trouble for saying. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Rapidly worsening, according to the UN. Last week, one of its humanitarian partners screened 1,300 children in northern Gaza and identified more than 80 cases of acute malnutrition, a twofold increase from previous weeks. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says there are also severe shortages of medicine, medical supplies, and equipment for hospitals overwhelmed by casualties from the Israeli bombardment, and that fuel shortages are hampering water production and distribution. Now, a couple things to note about this. First of all, the World Food Program, because I've seen before, any institution, any entity, any country, any government, any person, any journalist, any media outlet that criticizes Israel immediately gets labeled as anti-Semitic, as hating Israel. Anyone who criticizes Israel immediately gets called a racist. That's just the go-to tactic. Or hating Israel or having some bad. The whole world, everyone's persecuting poor Israel, even though the world's largest military and economy pay for their military, pay for their wars. All of Europe has stood up in defense of Israel. Somehow Israel is the poor little victim on the playground, constantly being bullied. You have all these UN organizations and Doctors Without Borders, people who do the most noble work of going around the world administering healthcare in the most dangerous way. All these institutions are immediately deemed anti-Semitic the first time they say anything negative about Israel. It's a little bit more difficult to do in the case of the World Food Program because its executive director is Cindy McCain. She is the widow of former Senator and presidential candidate John McCain and the mother of media personality Meghan McCain. And the McCain family has been as steadfast, as extreme, as loyal in their support for Israel as basically anybody in Washington. I mean, to try and depict the McCain family, Cindy McCain, as some kind of Israel hater. She was born into great wealth. She's using her platform to run the World Food Program, which does work to alleviate famine wherever famine is found. She didn't take it as a platform to criticize Israel. Much to the contrary, as I said, the McCain family worships Israel. But as the executive director, she is basically duty-bound to report the truth, which is that there's no more food left in Gaza. And they have no more food to distribute because all the stuff they were able to get into Gaza is now extinguished and exhausted, and they're barred by the Israeli military from delivering more. Here is the World Food Program itself on its X account yesterday. Quote, the WFP has run out of food in Gaza as border crossings remain closed. 2 million people inside Gaza rely entirely on food assistance to survive. The situation is at a breaking point. We need food to reach Gaza. We need access now.
Imagine experiencing boutique Israeli.
Oh my God.
They've started showing me that one as well. It's so tone deaf.
So tone deaf. Terrible.
I've seen people trying to claim, oh, this is a war. This is what happens in war. No, it's just not true. Most wars do not entail the deliberate blockading and starvation of an entire population. A population in this case composed of 50% of children. Trying to starve them to death or face the risk of the imminent death from starvation as a means to, get their hostages back. And of course, just like Israel was bombing everywhere in Gaza, claiming that they were concerned by their hostages, and ended up predictably killing a lot of the hostages. Obviously, if you bomb indiscriminately in the places that you know the hostages are, you're going to end up killing many of them, as happened. Similarly, if you starve an entire place to death, then there's no food to provide to the hostages either. And this is not something that the Israelis are doing by accident or incidentally as a byproduct of war. Starving the 2 million people in Gaza to death is absolutely an explicit, open boast that Israeli officials, at least when they're speaking in Hebrew, and sometimes even when they're speaking in English, are very proud that they're doing on purpose. Here's a member of the Knesset, the Israeli Knesset, Moshe Sada, and he was on a network called Middle East Eye, and they asked him about the people who, including the children, who have no food in Gaza, and here's what he said. Yes, absolutely. It is our duty to expel the Gazans. There are 10 countries in the world, and we are ready to absorb them. This is our job. Every day that passes here, member of the Knesset, Moshe Sada. If you say in the Israeli parliament, this is the interviewer, I want to starve Gazans, understand the implications of that statement. And he says, wasn't I clear? It's simple. I want to starve Gazans completely, a full siege. Anyone who wants to leave Gaza can leave for a humanitarian zone that we will control, a zone that we control. The Israeli army will distribute food in the zone. And then the reporter says, how will you deal with the world's criticisms? And he says, really, we've been there before. The world's criticism, forget about that. We need to take care of Jews. It's time.
Like, that feels like an onion piece or something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's bad, huh?
It's over the top. It's like I have such fatigue from this, the theatrics and the drama and the like. I really just want to focus on bringing free speech back to my own country.
Dani, there is the most fascinating, when you were talking just now, for some reason, like the picture was frozen on like a screen of you from a little bit, like a few minutes back, but your hand was still moving, and it was like in a shadow recessed kind of view. So
Wow.
did anybody else see that, or was it just that way for me? It was kind of fascinating to watch. Oh, I'm having that thing where, okay, here we go.
Now you can't see the chat.
Let's see. No, I can see the chat. Yeah. Well, I don't know if anyone else was able to see the effect I'm talking
Chris
about.
Sean said it was just you.
Oh, it was really cool. I wish everyone else could have seen it, because you were like this, and then your hands were separately, not the hands that were here were like doing gesticulating, right? It was very, very interesting gesturing. Okay. Yes, I agree. We have some things about that free speech on some level as well. So that was the first one. And then the second one here is, let's see. This is the one right here. Pro-Israel protesters assault a woman in New York City. Here you go.
Over the weekend, there was a protest in the Brooklyn neighborhood where Ben Gvir went to speak and meet with religious leaders in Brooklyn.
Pause.
And
did Glenn have a stroke? He's doing these like long pauses
Yeah, I've noticed this.
in every
I've noticed this.
story.
I've noticed this before a couple of times. Like, I've also noticed, like, every once in a while he'll have a show where he like misspeaks constantly. Like, he was interviewed by Brianna one time, and like he didn't pronounce the person's name they were talking about correct like one time, and every time he mispronounced it, he like mispronounced it a different way. It is interesting. He also has the thing going on with his eye. I've noticed this before too. It seems to be active at sometimes and not active at other times. I don't know what that is, but he seems to be everywhere. So this may just be a seriously exhausted person. Like, he's on debates in New York, back in Brazil, somewhere else. So yeah.
it ended up that the crowd of these Jewish religious fanatics welcoming Ben Gvir,
He heard you.
that crowd ended up becoming very violent and attacking at least two women physically, one of whom is an Israeli Jew, but who nonetheless was protesting Ben Gvir. Here from the New York Times, the NYPD is investigating pro-Israel crowd's attack on women in Brooklyn. Quote, on Thursday night, pro-Palestinian demonstrators gathered outside the Chabad Lubavitch World Headquarters on Eastern Parkway in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, where Itmar Ben Gvir, the
I think this is the place where there was those tunnels before. Remember that? The tunnels. Remember the Jewish tunnels in Brooklyn?
Yes.
This is the same place.
Israeli security minister was to speak. The headquarters is an important religious site in the Hasidic community, and intense clashes erupted between protesters and counter-protesters outside. Videos posted on social media by members of both sides show. At one point, hundreds of men and boys, hundreds, most of them Jewish, surrounded one woman, a woman. According to the police in videos of the episode, in a statement to the New York Times, a woman identified herself as the victim, but asked that her name not be used for fear of retribution. So she's scared in the United States to identify herself as the victim of mob violence on the part of these people at the Brooklyn synagogue there to hear Ben Gvir speak.
Pause.
She said she...
Pause. Did she say that? She said use for fear of retribution. It seems like Glenn's filling in the fear of the United States, unless that was stated in another paragraph.
There's a couple of no. I think she's not saying he's not saying she's fearful of like retribution legally. I think she's fearful of the same people that attacked her there. There's some like I'm only going to play a certain amount of clip from this, but further on in there, there's a lot of the person's own social media posts and tweets and things like that. He's reporting it accurately.
Okay.
She was not even involved in the protest, but had been watching with neighbors and pulled a scarf over her face when people began filming. She said she was quickly encircled by an angry crowd who shouted abuse at her and moved near a line of police officers for protection. The crowd, the victimized Jewish crowd, petrified to even leave their house because it's so unsafe for them in the United States, that crowd began to chant, quote, "death to Arabs" in Hebrew. Death to Arabs in Hebrew. Is that a genocidal chant? Death to Arabs? We're constantly hearing that people on campus chanted death to Jews or kill all Jews, which never actually happened. But here's a crowd of hundreds of men as they're menacing and physically attacking a woman, a single woman walking down the street, chanting death to Arabs in Hebrew. And they followed her, and an officer who had begun escorting her video shows. Many also shouted racist, sexist, and anti-Arab profanities as others shoved her. At least one hurled an orange construction cone at her head before the officer was able to put her in a police vehicle, the footage shows. The woman said she was terrified as members of the crowd kicked her in the back, spat at her, and threw objects at her head. And there are videos showing all of this. In another incident, pro-Israel counter-protesters harassed a second woman who was separated from fellow pro-Palestinian demonstrators and was injured, Mayor Adams said.
So I could scoot along to a part and show some interesting clips from these people who were doing the harassing in just a second. But I love, like, it is now so naked, right? They've been saying that from the river to the sea is a genocidal chant that is meant to eradicate the world of all Israelis or all Jews. But they're like literally saying that thing and right? Like it's just that naked. They were lying about one thing before, but now they're literally doing the exact thing that they were lying about in the other direction, right? What the fuck is this? There's some tweets from these people. Like he plays some video of what happened, and one of the poor like women looked like she'd made a Peter Pants. She was so scared. Let's see. Here we go. So this is what one guy said. She tried to assault Jews outside of a synagogue. She ended up leaving in handcuffs and peeing her pants. Right?
What does FAFO mean?
Fuck around and find out.
Jesus.
Right? So, but he's like, that's what he's saying that. So this is the girl, right?
Oh.
And then he's saying that she tried to assault people. Like there's no evidence she tried to assault people, right? So there's that one, and then there's another tweet. That's the same tweet.
I just want it to be clear for the record that I don't know that this is happening. It's just like everything else in our world is so fake. I'm not saying it's not.
Right.
I'm just saying there is so much to do about this.
Correct.
Something that is not happening here that I'm just like, I don't know. I haven't seen anything like this. I haven't been mistreated as a Jew. I haven't seen anything like this in any of my local realms. So in the same way that I didn't see people dropping dead from the FOVID, I don't know that
that's
this
part
is
of why I'm saying that like it's so naked at this point, whether it's happening or whether it's not happening, but this is the propaganda they're putting out there. It's
Correct.
a fucking clown show. What is this, right? With all the other things that try to get forced down our throat, it doesn't, it has a slightly different flavor, which doesn't mean that this one is any more true because of it. But this is, like when they try to force school shooter narratives down our throat, or joy and lollipop narratives down our throat, right? Like it's pretty clear who that's coming from and who stands to benefit and what the point is and what the long game is and whatever it is, right? Like it's generally, it isn't so revolving around one particular group of people with one particular ideology and one particular set of beliefs that aren't even necessarily like governmental or judicial in nature, right? Like I'm not saying any of it is okay or one kind is worse or whatever than the other, but the fact that like to me, they at this point, whoever's creating these propaganda campaigns want people to become anti-Semitic, want people to hate Jews, right? Like they're getting ready to do something that you like. This does not help Jews for sure, right?
No, not at all. I find it interesting how many of the people who were completely apathetic and compliant for COVID are so up in arms around this one, where it's like, but this one isn't even affecting you directly. Like you had no problem masking up your children, injecting your children with genocide, but because your favorite propagandists are telling you to be annoyed at this one, you're internalizing it. So once again, the weakness of the average human spirit is terrifying and disappointing.
So I what you're just saying right now is something I think about all the time. Like, what is it like so many of the people who are up in arms about this one, right? They're leftists. And it's been my observation, like ever since I began waking up to any of this, that leftists in general are more concerned with what's going on in other countries than they are concerned like with what's going on here, or right? Like they're anti-war. They're more concerned about like US doing corrupt things in other countries generally than corrupt things happening here. And people on the right tend to be, more concerned about what's going on here than what's going on in other places. This Israel thing flips a lot of that stuff on its head because of here you have like, it's not so evenly split between right and left what people's feelings are. There are factions sort of on each side. But yes, it's 100% true. Like people who did not care that the entire population was locked in their homes are very concerned that a Jewish woman doesn't feel safe, or a Palestinian woman doesn't feel safe, or the whole thing is like, on one level, like, I mean, I'm of many minds about this stuff, right? And I unfortunately know people who think some of these disgusting and sick things. So I know that that's a real thing in the world.
Which disgusting and sick things?
I know people who say that all Palestinians are terrorists.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they like intelligent, educated, like self-responsible, compassionate, loving humans, or are they psychopaths?
On everything except for that one topic, yes, they are. But on that one topic, they right? Like some yeah. It's weird.
Did you hear? I didn't bring the clip, but did you see the Jimmy Dore that they found that over 100 Meta employees are Israeli spies, including the head of the AI algorithm programming division?
No, I didn't see that clip, but no, doesn't surprise me. And exactly what you're saying is why I say that even though this one might be as fake as all the other ones, there's a different flavor to this because of the fact that that same group that is creating all this hullabaloo also is in charge of all of our tech.
Correct. And that's why, I mean, you and I have been talking about this pre-October 7th. We've been talking about the weird collusion. And I do think it's important. It's just like, it's weird seeing the public take the bait for something that isn't affecting them in any real experiential way, minus the censorship and stuff, but that they're not paying attention to.
Right.
And it's just, I don't know, like I said, I'm just pretty worn out.
The left does seem to care about censorship when it comes to this topic.
but they don't care about it for anything else. Like, that's what
Correct.
annoys me, is
Yes.
seeing all these people flip out about this. And I'm like, where were you in 2020 when your actual friends and family were being censored? Like, people you didn't give a shit about.
I
So
know.
that's why it's very hard for me to get a hard on for this topic, because everyone's just being so whipped up. I'm not seeing any like independent thinking except for from like Dave Smith or whatnot. But again, I don't even know what's real. I do think there's a little bit of legitimacy to Douglas Murray's stupid, well, have you been there? Where it's like, realistically, I haven't been there. I don't know what the word bean means in that capacity, but I cannot see what is happening. And I know that all my screens lie to me.
Correct.
So why would I give my allegiance to this particular version?
His that point of his would have legitimacy if his trip there hadn't been the literal Israel propaganda tour.
Correct. Correct.
Right?
Correct.
No, I mean, I don't even know, like, I'm being completely sarcastic when I say this, right? But sometimes, like, when I'm just trying to, like, take panoramic view and pull way the fuck out, like, I don't even know if China's on the same planet as we are, right?
Exactly.
So, and this is my whole, like, I get into an argument with my, the person who assists me at the cocktail job, right? About, I don't have a strong opinion about flat earth, round earth. I don't really care. But like, I'm part of the reason that I'm unwilling under any circumstances to commit one way or another is because I can't go examine the situation to my satisfaction myself. Right. And so I'm not going to, like, every little experiment that anybody tells me that you could do to prove it one way or another was designed to prove that, and happens without ever, like, going and examining from every single angle and see what we're looking at and all this other stuff. Right. And this is kind of a thing like that. Like, you can't go to either place without it being controlled. So if I find a way, if I go to Israel, they're going to take me, especially because, I suppose you and I could go on the trip to Israel if we wanted to, because we haven't taken it yet and we're both Jewish, right? But they're going to take us around and give us the Israeli propaganda tour. And if somehow, I don't think you can even do this anymore, but if prior to October 7th, you and I had decided as journalists or whatever to go into to Palestine, right? Then those people are going to take us around and tell it from their perspective, right? So unless you can spend a lot of independent time in both places and then time observing sort of the interaction at the place where those things come together, like, I don't see how you can get a reasonable perspective that isn't influenced by someone who's very invested in making sure you feel one way or the other about it.
At this point, I feel like I find all the supposed controversy over the definition of the word genocide and how much of this, like, we're morally okay with and not, is a giant distraction from the meat of the matter, which is, why are we silencing American citizens?
And why are we paying for it?
And why do we have dual citizenship in our government? Right. Like, that's the only real thing. This nonsense about genocide or not is offensive. Like, people are dying. That's a problem.
Right. Well, I'm the one, the trivialization of it that really bothers me when they get into the conversation about proportionality. Then I'm just like, what the fuck are we even talking about here? Right. Okay. The reason that I'm showing you this is not like about getting whipped up about it or saying that even that it's true or not true. It's that literally you have Israeli people say, or Jewish people or people who are pro-Israel saying the exact thing that they say you're not allowed to say.
Right.
That's the point, right? That's the level of cartoon and clown show that we're at. So if a Palestinian person says that Jewish people are doing this, they get in trouble and called an anti-Semite. But if a Jewish person goes on and says, we're doing this, then that's allowed. Right?
The whole thing is utterly ridiculous.
Okay, let's finish this one. And then the next one is the next one will really get you. Okay, so here's another one. Jews don't need to be polite or nuanced, not if you just showed up at their synagogue. They need to walk right up to you and punch you in the face because you're a vile bigot trying to intimidate them. Lubavitchers are famously kind and outgoing. You deserved worse. Like, this is a clown show.
What?
Right, this is my point. Now, I'm sure this person probably said this and probably means that. But, like, the fact that they feel so comfortable just, like, getting on there and saying that tells you the level of lunacy we're living in.
Well, the other thing in terms of the level of lunacy we're living in is that Israelis are by nature a very difficult, aggressive, I will get away with as much as possible type of people. And that is conflated with Jews is another problem. Like, we're not dealing with the cultural specifics of this tribe of people from this geography who do say stupid shit like that, where I don't think Jews from any other part of the planet would dare.
Right. Right. I don't know. There are some Jews here who I think might say some things like that.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, some of these, like, there are some Ben Shapiro types out there that think all those same things. Your Jared Kushner, all those people, right? Like, they think that. I don't know if they would get on Twitter and say it, but they think that.
My idealism is creating a block. Like, it's very hard for me to wrap my mind around this.
Okay, so this is the last one from Glenn. And this is a video he made about pro-Israel commentators or people working in like education and whatever, and like how they're really pushing this very deranged sort of version of things. Check this out. I have 2 clips from this video, and then that's it on Glenn.
Here's something I mentioned and alluded to before, which is a really unbelievable statement. It comes from former Senator Norm Coleman, who represented Minnesota. He was one of those kind of very moderate Republicans. And he's Jewish and a very steadfast supporter of Israel. And he was giving a speech at the JNS event for Jews. And he was addressing the fact that in the United States, public opinion is turning against Israel. And here was his solution to that.
Of Gen Z have an unfavorable impression of Israel. And my friends, I think the reason for that is that we're losing the digital war. Okay, they're getting their information from TikTok and whatever it is, and we're losing that war. When you think about it, the masters of the universe are Jews. You know, we've got Altman and AI, we got Zuckerberg, we got, you know,
So I just want to note a couple things before I show you the rest. He's saying there that, first of all, there's these places where people who are young Americans, Gen Z, are getting this information that's turning them against Israel. And the example he led with was TikTok. Because as we've shown you many times before, the reason the TikTok ban finally got enacted after lingering in Washington for 4 years was not because of fear of China, but because of people becoming convinced in the Congress that there was too much Israel criticism, too much pro-Palestinian sentiment circulating on TikTok, and it was turning young Americans against Israel, and they couldn't allow that, and that's why they voted to ban it. Now, just by the way, the deadline for banning TikTok has come and gone 90 days ago. More than 90 days ago. And Trump is pretty much ignoring it and just saying, like, yeah, at some point we'll do a sale in order to keep TikTok going. And you barely hear anyone complaining about that. But so he's saying TikTok is where a lot of the sentiment came from, and we had to do something about that, and that's where the TikTok ban came from. Imagine banning an app in the United States that a third of the country voluntarily chooses to use, tens of millions of people, because there's too much criticism of foreign country allowed on it. But that's what the US government did. But he's also saying, and when I first heard it, I thought he was being ironic or sarcastic or satirical, like mocking what an anti-Semite would say, but no, he's not. You're going to see, but you just saw this in the clip. I'm going to play it again. He's saying, look, the solution is obvious. The masters of the universe are Jews. We, Jews, have the masters of the universe on our side. They're part of us. He goes on to list a bunch of examples like Mark Zuckerberg. You're going to hear that. Could you imagine if anybody who was critical of Israel said that? Oh, look, all the masters of the universe are Jewish. You would be destroyed as an anti-Semite in a minute.
So there, he plays the whole talk, and like basically he goes on and says that and explains how all these Jewish people who run all these tech companies should, you know, gather together and force as Americans to love Israel again or whatever it is.
I heard the clip.
Yeah, so the clown show, they're literally like whenever somebody alludes to the fact that there's a Jewish power conspiracy, they're called an anti-Semite, but there he is saying, I'm proposing a Jewish power conspiracy. Right? So that, and then there's one more segment.
I wonder if the root cause of this whole thing is just in claiming to be the chosen people.
Well, I mean, I think that's a problem for sure, right?
But that could be the origin of the problem. If you have these people who think that the Almighty Creator said that they're better than everyone else, or
Yeah.
they're somehow more favored, like I think that is the crux of this distortion.
I agree with you, right? Like, I mean, it's actually, I think, isn't in one of those videos I sent you a few weeks ago of Eric Weinstein giving a talk in Israel, he says that to them. He says, basically wandering around telling people you're the chosen people also doesn't do much for your image. So I had a moment of being like, word, you know what I mean?
Right. He has his moments.
Okay, now this one, like, this might be the most, this segment we're going to right now might be the most deranged I've ever seen.
And that's where a lot of this desperation is coming from. Now, speaking of desperate, a Harvard professor named Ruth Weiss, or Wiss, wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal, an op-ed, the title of which is Harvard is an Islamist Outpost.
What?
For a decade, it nurtured resentful leftists, and anti-Semitism united them in a common cause.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
The idea of Harvard being an Islamist outpost.
You have no idea what you're about to hear. Hang on tight, all right?
Okay.
Hang on tight.
The longtime home of Alan Dershowitz as one of its most celebrated and famous faculty members. I think it's something like 6 of the last 7 or 5 of the last 7, 6 of the last 8 presidents of Harvard have been Jewish, including the current one, Alan Gerber. They had a non-Jewish president for about 7 seconds, and Elise Stefanik, and the Republicans forced her out because of her refusal to say we're going to ban phrases like from the river to the sea as genocidal. You have to look at the context to see if it's genocidal. They got rid of 3 other Ivy League presidents as well over the same issue, one at the University of Penn, 2 at the University of Columbia. And I just want to show you who this person is, Ruth Weiss, who is writing this op-ed in the Wall Street Journal saying Harvard is an outpost of Islamism, because I think it's very valuable to really listen to these people when they're at the most candid. Ruth Weiss she's a very distinguished professor of Yiddish at Harvard, but she's also one of the old school neocons. Very vocal in support of everything Bush and Cheney did as part of the war on terror, invading Iraq. She wanted to invade Iran. She wants a war with Iran. So everything to her looks like an Islamist outpost. Any criticism of Israel becomes anti-Semitic or Islamist. This is her worldview. And I just want to have you hear her worldview in her own words, where she's explaining to American Jews like herself what their duty is by explaining to them using the voice of an Israeli Jew what Israeli Jews are saying to American Jews and what American Jews should hear. Here's what she said.
Us look good. Our job is not to make you look good, American Jews. What do you have to worry about? Your job is to make us look good. And here's how you do it. Every one of us has to serve 3 years in the Army, 2 years in the Army, some of us 5 years, and then for the rest of our lives, you have got to serve 2 or 3 years in the army of words. You've got to learn to fight the political battle, which is even more important at this point than the military battle that we are. We'll fight the military battle. We're not asking you necessarily to come and be lone soldiers, although some of you can. You've got to learn how to fight back on the campuses, how to make the arguments. Now, they keep shifting.
I mean, that's her view of the duty of an American Jew. To enlist in the army of words in loyalty and defense of a foreign country, Israel. And she's even saying like, hey, some of you can actually come and fight for the Israeli army. And there are a lot of Americans who do. A lot of American Jews go to fight in the Israeli army. The quote unquote American hostage that's in Hamas is actually somebody who is an Israeli citizen as well, went to Israel, enlisted in the IDF, was in active duty combat the day that Hamas took him. I mean, now if American citizens go to fight for a foreign army, it suddenly becomes our war. And if Americans go to fight in Ukraine and they get captured by the Russians, now it's suddenly our responsibility because they decided to go and fight for a foreign army. Obviously, that would never be the standard for any country other than Israel. I want to show you this as well. This is from March of last year, unlike the clip we showed you before, which was from 2019. Here's the same person, the same Harvard professor, Ruth Wissey, who has this article in the Wall Street Journal saying Harvard is a outpost of Islamism. And this is what she believes is also the duty of Jews. I just want you to listen to this. Again, this is an American Jew. I think she's Canadian, actually. But like Norm Coleman, who we just showed you, she conceives of Jews as a kind of separate people, a people with duties and obligations apart from their citizenship of a foreign country, which is one of the worst and most destructive anti-Semitic tropes ever. That's what Hitler wrote about Jews in Mein Kampf. That it doesn't matter where Jews go, what citizens what countries they become, they're always going to have supreme loyalty to Jews and not to their country. People thought that about Catholics as well. When JFK ran as a Catholic, there was a lot of claims that he was going to be loyal to the Vatican and to the Pope and not to America. And there were previous Catholic candidates who were sunk by those suspicions as well. And that's why it's so amazing to hear Norm Coleman stand up and say, hey, we are Jews as a separate people. We have all these masters of the universe, so we can use them. They're for our agenda. Here's Ruth Wissey talking about how she sees Jews globally.
If you are an Israeli anywhere, and if you are a Jew anywhere, Mr. Netanyahu is the head of the Israeli government, and you stand up and salute, and you ask everyone else in the whole world, don't you dare.
I can't believe it. What I can't believe is not that they think this. I know they think this. What I can't believe is that they're at the point where they're kind of so desperate that they're willing to say it publicly.
Okay, that's enough. But I mean, the point he made, we are literally so far into the clown show that they are reciting Hitler's talking points.
It's like, so I have a clip from Revolutionary Blackout, and I don't know that we're going to get to the place, but he's commenting on RFK Zionism, and he's like, it is beneath me to comment on this. This is so over. That's how I feel.
I agree.
This is so stupid. Our world is so dumb. We have real problems. We have like 2 weeks left of a supply chain. Like, we're literally facing legit problems, and instead we're all whining about this shit. I don't mean you and me. I get that this has taken over the news cycle. It's just absurd.
Well, I think the way that I see this pertaining most to you and I is and to your point, like the way that this is affecting, the way this seems to be substantially affecting people in this country is dollars and free speech, right? And so like I really, really hope that some of the people who put together the good memes and viral video clips of literally these people doing exactly the thing that they call everyone else anti-Semitic for doing, right? I hope somebody comes up with some clever ones. But like, yeah, I reached that point too, where while listening to this and preparing for this, like I'm about to just say I'm not paying any attention to this anymore, right? Because this is, I mean, and you can see that Glenn obviously is at clown show with this as well. Like,
Right.
he's just, like, that's like, he's like, I can't even keep my eye normal because I like, this is
Exactly.
so stupid, right? But that's where, I mean, and I think if we're honest with ourselves on some level, like everything that has threatened to change our way of life, whether it be Patriot Act in 9/11, whether it be COVID bullshit or propaganda around school shooting, always reached this clown show level. And the clown show is generally not coming from the conspiracy theorists. It's literally coming from the people who are the authorities on this. And it's like, I sometimes think that the only thing that we can do to like, that would make any impact is just literally shut the computer off and walk away. And I don't mean walk away for the day, the week, the month. I mean, like, I don't see how anyone has any power going forward if you are not on the internet. And I'm a person that likes a lot of things that are related to sort of technology based stuff, but this is ridiculous.
That's where I'm at with it. And I do have an Ian clip that points to like the next level of ridiculous. And do you have any more?
Let's go to your stuff. Like we've spent way too much time on this. If we have a minute at the end, we can gag on Dave Rubin, but yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to say it, but I have 2 more Israel clips because I just figured I might as well just get them out of the way now since
we're purging our system. And
right. Yeah. That.
I about can't take it anymore though. Yeah.
Okay, so I just have 2 revolutionary blackout clips. One is RFK Jr. on his Zionist stuff, and then the other is Tulsi's hypocrisy. All right, so, Miss Moya, may I please have some
I'm sorry.
permission?
Oh, yes. The permission structure of this show requires that Dani. There we go.
How'd you do that without using your hands?
I'm just amazing like that.
That is really amazing. All right, here we go, fair use.
But his answer was so bad, even Russell Brand's audience saw through him. He was trending. People like, oh, God, damn it, I want to support RFK. We really wanted to do this white boy revolution. We really wanted to do it. But even all the people who was weak on this issue, even they are realizing that this guy is a fucking tool of Rabbi Butt Plug.
You know, I don't believe that there's a genocide going on, and I don't think Israel's intention is genocide. I don't believe there's any evidence of genocide. There is genocide going on in the Mideast, but it's a genocide of Jews, and it's a genocide of Christians, and nobody's complaining about it for some reason. And there are much worse wars than what's happening in Gaza right now, but for some reason, people don't want to complain unless it's Jews who can be blamed.
So I said I wasn't gonna stop it, but this guy is such a psychopathic liar. I can't. You got, as I said in my speech in KU, more.
Okay, it's only 7 minutes, and I don't want to like.
So that was on the Russell. That was on the Russell Brand. So he was commenting on him being on the Russell Brand show. Like I can't. I think at this point it's clear to me that Russell Brand and RFK Jr. are the poster boys for like what happens when you get caught with your pink pony riding on the track that it's not supposed to at the ice cream shop or whatever that place was that we found that day. Right.
Totally. Now, for the sake of time, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but it's just 7 minutes. I do recommend listening to it because the nonsense coming out of his mouth, it's like the one thing about RFK is like, say his handlers have set up like 3 points for him to say. He over delivers. Like he takes it into such a complete flip-flop, inverted world. He's really good at like going to the cuckoo place in terms of the narratives that he spins, right?
But he's like, I'm sure he's had dinner with Ruth Wissy.
Yes, that amazing jacket though. I do want that jacket. All right, okay.
So she might give it to you.
But only if I go,
and
fighting.
salute Benjamin. If you salute when Benjamin Netanyahu walks in, she'll give you her coat.
Why do I, as a Jew, have to pledge allegiance to another nation? I just don't get it. Okay. All right. So one more revolutionary blackout. Tulsi confront. So this is an interview. Again, we have our same dude commenting, and all right, I'm just gonna let it play. Fair use.
Her because after she gives this bullshit answer, pretending that she's anti-war, that she criticized the empire, he's then gonna bring up the hypocrisy she has about Gaza.
You mentioned American taxpayer dollars. Is there a difference between funding Israel and funding Ukraine? Like, how do you see that exactly? I'm just curious about that.
Yes, there is a
because
very clear
radical
difference.
Islamic.
There's a very big difference. Is there? Is there, Tulsi? When there's a war for Israel, I'm for it. When there's a war anywhere else, I'm kind of against it. Because remember, Tulsi was in Africa. She's an imperialist. She supported our campaigns in Somalia. Like, in her weakness on Israel will lead her to be weak in our campaign against Iran in the future. So is it different, Tulsi? You gotta see her twist herself in a pretzel. Because I don't know if she was even expecting this.
Between funding Israel and funding Ukraine, like, how do you see that exactly? I'm just curious about that.
Yes, there is a very
because
clear
radical
difference.
Islamic extremism is what Israel is on the front lines of every day.
There is a very real difference, and using and there will always be with every unique challenge that we face and that unique decision that must be made. Using those two examples, are we better off increasing and escalating tensions and waging this proxy war against Russia, of which Ukraine has never had any shot at winning?
And Israel never had a shot at defeating Hamas. Hamas is still running strong. You have even Israeli officials, they're openly admitting that they're about to lose this war. The goal was to eliminate Hamas, and now Hamas is still running strong. Every time they raise an area, kill massive amounts of civilians, Hamas pop right back up. And then they had to go back to that place. Now they got to go to Rafah after saying that they wiped out Hamas already. The war against Hamas is lost. There's no struggle that ends in victory here for Israel. But you guys see that the hypocrisy doesn't matter.
Increasing the likelihood of nuclear war, that is counter to and undermining our own national security. What to speak of the fact that we've spent hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars now.
She said there, and I'm going to let more of it play here, but she said sending money to Ukraine impacts us in our national security because it puts us at risk with Russia. Now, if you apply the same thing to Israel, Israel is our greatest national security threat.
Yep.
We have a war we're losing right now to the Houthis in Sirah in Yemen. We have shipping being disrupted because of Israel. We have tensions with Iran, with Syria, with Iraq. The Middle East is on fire because of Israel. So you guys see what she's saying doesn't make sense at face value? So she's saying, oh, well, I'm against funding Ukraine because if we fund Ukraine, that's going to lead us into never-ending conflict. Funding Israel led us into never-ending conflict. Every war we fought on the last 25, 30 years has been an Israeli war. Like, the Russia-Ukraine war is unique in that sense. That's finally a war that we're not fighting on behalf of Israel. But so I want you guys to hear your thoughts. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to let more of it play.
Increasing.
I'm going to go back a little bit more. I want to hear the full breadth of the argument.
Waging this proxy war against Russia, of which Ukraine has never had any shot at winning. Increasing the likelihood of nuclear war, that is counter to and undermining our own national security. What to speak of the fact that we've spent hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars now for what purpose? For what purpose? Putin was wrong to invade Ukraine. There's no question about it. There's a lot of historical context that went into that, but the bottom line is we should have had a president who would have gone in very early and negotiated a peaceful end to that war as quickly as possible. Save lives, save American taxpayer dollars. When you look at what's happening in the war between Israel and Hamas, and it is a war between Israel and Hamas, a radical Islamist terrorist group. This is just the latest front of this war that's been waged for a very long time between these radical Islamist terrorist groups.
I bet she and Ruth Wissy would have a nice lunch together because everything is an Islamist outpost, right?
Oh, I'm sure they already have had lunch together.
Right? Like with Tulsi, like it's just like whatever, like, no one, including myself, should ever have been fooled or trusted her, but it's become so fucking basic bitch, right? It's like everyone I disagree with is an Islamist terror, right? Like, it's just kind of, oh God, make it more complicated, please, right? But like, yeah, it's
better psyops.
It's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. The whole thing is embarrassing.
Yeah.
I think this is it for my Israel. Do you want to do your Dave Rubin now while we're on
the date? Well, just and as I think is evidence to what Glenn was talking about, and the whole purpose of us boring you with all this Israel thing, though it's fun to laugh about some of it, is encapsulated in Dave Rubin's Horish post here. Right? So I don't understand why we're looking at a picture of Megyn Kelly's chest when he says he'd like to moderate a conversation between, that's Megyn Kelly's chest, isn't it? Looks like it to me. I'd like to moderate a conversation between Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro. Both blurbed my first book. We've all been on each other's shows multiple times. I have a good relationship with both, and healing this would be good for the country. It's a big problem for the Israel people that Tucker Carlson is moderate on that topic. Right. I will also text them directly to ensure this offer is seen. Also, I'm more than happy to donate every cent made from the episode to a mutually agreed upon territory. So this is Dave Rubin's role, right? Like Dave Rubin brought us this, he didn't bring it to us. Like it wasn't his idea, but like he's the hole that they ran it through, right? And now everything is a mess because all of the dorks from the dork web have, gotten way out over their skis, and now they need someone to reel it back in. And I don't know if they haven't selected him and he's jealous, so he's putting it out there himself, which is what I guess. I have no idea what Megyn Kelly's chest has to do with this. She's like firmly on the pro-Israel side, but she allows argument and debate about it. She has people on her show to argue and debate about it. She doesn't run and hide from them like you do, Dave Rubin. But I would love to, if you've heard some of the things that Tucker Carlson has had to say about Ben Shapiro in recent times, so it would be amusing for sure. But as far as I've been able to understand, Ben Shapiro's only interested in debating 17-year-old kids on campus. So
I find it adorable that people like Dave Rubin and Brett Weinstein have no idea how their industries work.
Correct.
Right? Like, I think that this is probably legitimate, that like he thinks if he just puts it out on Twitter that it's going to happen, and he has no idea of the handlers and like the puppeteers behind the scenes who would either deem this acceptable or not.
Remember when he thought he would try to make peace between Brett and Elon Musk? He's like, I can call Elon. Somehow we never heard the results of that. It's so I can't decide who's more embarrassing, him or Brett. Like they're both just so embarrassing.
I think Brett is personally, because at least
Dave Rubin doesn't look like he would be embarrassing, but then he is. Brett looks like he's embarrassing, and he is.
Correct. Speaking of the dork web and the embarrassing Weinsteins, can we go to Eric's new interview?
Please. Yes.
I have three. We're still on. There's. I'm going to be vague Israel references just to keep it on topic because there's nothing else happening on the planet.
Oh, right.
That's at all relevant.
There's the Madrid blackout and this. That's about it. Yes.
I heard the Madrid blackout has something to do with the pole shift. I have no idea.
I was the first, I think I was literally the first person aware of it because the way that it happened, the first hint that it was happening was that the line camera that called, they don't have line judges in tennis anymore. They have a camera that calls the ball in or out. It started failing. Right. And so then they didn't understand why. But okay, so the umpire will just try and call the line from the chair, right? And then a few minutes later, the computer systems went out and everything. So I was aware about 90 seconds before the rest of the power went out because of the fact that there was starting to be power failure on things that require a lot of energy, right? Yep. And then so the tennis tournament was put on pause, and then over the next few hours, it became clear that there was a blackout all over the area. But I only knew it first because of the thing that was happening on the tennis match because it was there in Madrid. So it looks like it has to do with the dependence that Spain has on renewable energy. There's so little room for error with renewable energy.
Yep.
And it just proved that this is a non-starter.
Okay.
Right. And they'll try because the people so deeply believe in renewable energy, they'll try and blame it on pole shift or China or whatever it is. But really what it is the whole climate change scam industry
bullshit.
is
Yep.
the bullshit it was. Yeah.
Okay, so this is Eric Weinstein. He was just in Israel, and I guess the Western Spirit is an Israeli publication. And I have 3 clips for us, so here we go, fair use.
All right.
Oh, the interviewer just asked Eric about the Douglas Murray, Joe Rogan.
The betrayal of Israel.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go.
I didn't love it. It's just me. Look, I think it was an awkward episode. My guess is that there's a backstory, which is that Douglas was promoting a book. The book was about Israel. Joe has a set of feelings that are shared with other people in his world, particularly. My guess is that Dave Chappelle is influential, and Joe is probably influential on Dave Chappelle. And he said, that he believes that Israel is engaged in barbarism. So he has that lens and that view.
So that wasn't Joe's original thought. He's been influenced by the big bad
Dave
black
Chappelle.
man. Yeah, big bad black man is giving him some erroneous ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you heard that before?
I like the way you say it, like the big bad wolf, like right? Big bad wolf.
That sounded so out of left field. I've never heard that like Joe Rogan doesn't, I mean, aside from the control stuff, but that he's getting his ideas from Dave Chappelle.
Right.
Have you heard this?
No, I mean, this is the whole, no, I've not heard this. But I think that Joe Rogan probably has a bigger Rolodex than anybody in the world. He seems to know everybody, right? But Eric Weinstein is trying to do this thing where he's trying to insult Joe without risking not being invited back on the show.
Correct.
Right? He's not listening to we were supposed to be his thought instructors in the dark web, and he's not listening to us. So we just, as long as everybody thinks that he's getting his advice from comedians and not from experts who have been there, have you been? Right. Then it's kind of being like, oh, that's cute. Joe's a comedian. He doesn't really know any better. And when he's ready for big boy thoughts, he'll call the wolf in.
But isn't it? Yes, 100%. But I also think it's interesting that if all the comics who Joe hangs out with,
right, he chooses a black man. Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, so next one, still fair using. Here we go.
Well, you've got a situation in which people are confused about how free speech ever
Danny
worked.
just made fair use an activity. It's like a verb. All right, that's the title of the show. Fair use.
Fair using.
Right? Fair using with the hyphen because it's not using, not fair using, fair using. And I think Sadie needs to make a shirt. Go ahead.
Oh, she might. She might.
Like doing something, annoying and being like,
The first thing is it doesn't work with anonymous people. You cannot have tons of people be anonymous and then feel free to shout whatever the heck they like at all times in restaurants, on the street. You wouldn't be able to live your life if X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, had these rules. Also, super important that culture be used to restrain bad. And when I say bad, I don't mean like ill-informed. I mean like really dangerous ideas. Because really dangerous ideas can be fit. So this whole concept of the marketplace of ideas doesn't actually work because marketplaces have market failures, and very fit, dangerous ideas can't be simply rebutted by better ideas. This is some, liberal fantasy. Which
bad ideas.
Here's him making his case for censorship.
Totally. And notice this has been the through line this week because Jordan Peterson was saying the same thing. You and I have been tracking this for a couple years now. You can't have anonymous people on the internet. Everyone needs to upload their real ID or they can't get on it.
Yep. Right. And anyone who disagrees with me is a psychopath. That's now it's not for Jordan Peterson. It's not anyone who disagrees with me is a Russian bot. It's anyone who disagrees with me is a psychopath. That's his idea.
Oh, you're reminding me there was such a good compilation of Jordan Peterson actually being a psychopath. Sorry. And I know we're not going to have time to get to it, but it was so good. Because, and I think Dave Smith had a really good point about it, which is it's really reckless and out of line for a professional psychologist to be pathologizing people who don't agree with him. Like, talk about an abuse of your position in your industry.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. And for those of you, Dani and I found another interesting Jordan Petersonism on Shit Pickles that'll be debuting tomorrow morning at wordspodcast.locals.com. All one word, welcome to Words, right? We found another person that is
clone.
Well, Jordan Peterson's a clone. We found another substantial, meaningful person who Jordan Peterson appears to be a very poorly produced fractal of. We've talked about Brother 12 before, but wait till we see who we have for you. Let's you see who we have for you tomorrow. So anywho, all right.
So I have one more clip here, and I do have a bunch that I want to get through, so I'm going to move us quickly. All right, last one for you. This is just for you, Emily.
All right.
This is my present for you.
I wanted to ask you also about Peter Thiel. So he's someone who we all read about. We all want to know about him. He seems an amazing person just in the business decisions even that he's made over the years. Can you give us a little bit about behind the scenes about your relationship with him, how it is to work for someone like that, and just give us a little.
No. Well, let me say what I can. Well, look, Peter is somebody I've worked with, one of my closest friends, one of the most brilliant people that I get the chance to talk through ideas with. My feeling about this is you should just become nudniks and get him over to Israel more often, because it's not that hard. Just tell him what you want.
That's the basic gist. I mean, his deflection, he goes on and on with the deflection.
It's crazy. I've never, even people who are willing to overlook all the problems with him because, they like using his Rumble platform or whatever it is. I've never heard anybody say who doesn't, I've never heard anybody who's not being paid by him, or even people who are being paid by him, other than Eric Weinstein just now. But this guy who was the host said, Peter Thiel seems like an amazing person. No, Peter Thiel seems like the most unimpressive lizard that can barely spit out a sentence. No.
And Eric Weinstein's refusal to answer the question and whatever the weird telegraphing was going on, because something was cut, right? Yeah. You and I know from our show, it doesn't switch views of us until one of us says something. But it switched over to Eric before he even said anything. He said no, and then there's like a good 5 seconds of weirdness before he takes us off into just invite him to Israel.
There was I couldn't do it. Like I said, the Peter Thiel Jordan Peterson interview.
I tried.
Did notice that like Peter Thiel's eyes are really looking weird. They're starting to develop those things that like George Soros has right here. And
it's the reptile.
The weird thing, right? It's very bizarre. And I think he does a lot of like injecting himself with like things that, like blood
peptides, child blood,
all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's not working, or like, I don't know if this is where like all the guilt and the shame goes to live, or I don't know what it is, but it was the weird. It's uncomfortable to look at either one of them, and then to look at them together is just like, ooh, Yeah.
Well, since we're on the eye topic and you were doing the thing with Glenn Greenwald,
Right.
have you seen the new Klaus Schwab's
Oh
replacement?
my God, with the blood eye.
He's got the weird blood eye. Also,
I mean, that is like it was like, who can we find that is creepier looking than Klaus Schwab? There's only one I know, let's call him, right? Like that's what that had to be.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's an Onion article.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can do my autism study short audio clip, or we can move on to the world's greatest journalist.
I mean, whichever one would make you happy, dear.
I'm going to do the autism clip just because it brings full circle something that you spoke about last week. And this will be our very last Israel adjacent.
Okay.
Clip. Here we go.
Somehow autism is now an Israel adjacent problem. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Wait, do you hear it? Here we go.
National Institutes of Health Director Jay Bhattacharya says the project that will study the causes of autism will take longer than initially indicated. NTD correspondent Jason Blair reports.
NIH Director Jay Bhattacharya says that the study looking into the causes of autism will take a little longer than the projected September date by Secretary of Health Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Bhattacharya says that he thinks preliminary results will be pulled out within a year. The NIH will be leading the project that is expected to be formally announced within 2 weeks.
We're going to announce a series of new studies to identify precisely what the environmental toxins are that are causing it. This has not been done before.
Bhattacharya says that he thinks to answer the question of why autism is rising, there needs to be large samples of people. He says that they'd like to, quote, get access to the medical records of a large portion of the American population, and these records would be a very important part of the study. Dr. Bhattacharya says...
Did you catch it?
They're going to call in their good buddy Larry Ellison, who collects all that shit, right? And with the Oracle Corporation, it's going to be, moving that into Stargate. Yep, this is and like there's no one more pro-Israel than Larry Ellison, and right, like that's like Peter Thiel and Larry Ellison. The reason that they like Israel is because of how advanced they are technologically. Like that's the source of their connection to Israel. So yes, to tie to my thing from last year, that this is why the whole thing with cutting funding and signing contracts and whatever it is, because all of that genetic data technology and health records technology and all that stuff is going to be run on Israeli technology.
Did you also hear where RFK, who has been saying on the record for years that there's a conclusive link between autism and vaccines, now it's an environmental issue.
Now all of our health problems are environmental and food, and like this is where we have to be careful, because obviously we know that environmental and food is part of the problem as well. But this is, remember, it is like our environment.
Well, of course it is, but they're going to make it climate change.
Well, remember, this is on Danny Jones' podcast when Jack Cruz was yelling at Callie Means that we think you're a psyop brought in to shift the talk from vaccines to the food and stuff like that. He's right about that. Unfortunately, Jack Cruz is not really that much better, about whatever. He has issues too. But no, I mean, it was very obvious from the moment that, that RFK sort of, I mean, I always knew this was, even if RFK had ridden all the way to the White House as his own candidate, I knew that it was going to be this, right? But it became really, really clear sort of once he pivoted away, once the Shmuley infiltration and the pivot away from Kucinich and the pivot towards like cozying up to Trump, and it's obvious. Like it was always obvious.
Yeah. Totally. All right. So before I jump into the world's greatest journalist, I want to share this screenshot. I saw this on Instagram. Do you remember us talking about this woman, Blue of Earth?
Well, I remember you told me about like Aubrey used to have some blue person on their podcast.
Yes. So she's been on Aubrey several times. She's very connected with Matthias Desmond as well as Robert Edward Grant. So think of the spiritual arm of the One World Op. Notice what is around her neck.
Yep.
It's so fucking prominent. How stupid do they think we are? I just wanted to share that little bit. Okay, moving on to the world's greatest journalist. So the world's greatest journalist is now reporting on Justin Bieber. And I have two very, very, very short clips, which will lead us into a fascinating and illuminating conversation. Here we go. Fair use.
Celebrities hold immense power to influence particularly young people. But it's bigger than rap, and it's bigger than hip hop. It's also pop, it's also country, it's also electronic music, it's music festivals, it's concerts, it's the Grammys.
Wait, it's music festivals, but I thought he was telling us when Nicole Shanahan met her third Jew billionaire at Burning Man that festivals are amazing and that we shouldn't stress about it and we shouldn't criticize festivals because festivals are awesome.
I think the Candace Ian duo is here to pivot power back towards Hollywood.
Okay, so this is what let me just play the last clip, and this is exactly where I'm going with this. So last one, and then that's exactly where we're going. Here we go. Fair use.
All right.
Hey everybody, it's Tony Robbins.
Sorry.
Oh God.
Right?
It's like, is there any that aren't cults?
Welcome
like
back to
the Scientology cult or the Jewish boutique cult or whatever that was.
Yeah, it's just cult commercials for days.
Oh, okay.
Another episode of Cancel This with Ian Carroll. This week, we're talking about Justin Bieber. And the Justin Bieber story has been breaking little by little across the internet. First, a couple of weeks ago, Candace Owens started reporting on the story. She got an inside source with someone close to Justin Bieber that was telling her things that did not line up with what the public media campaign seemed to be saying about him. And she painted a picture that was strikingly similar to what Brett Cooper just published this week, alleging a lot of the exact same things, possibly from the same source, maybe from a different source around Justin. I don't know. But I talked to someone in the exact same circle, right around Justin Bieber, someone who's currently close to him. And I assume that Justin's friends are reaching out because Justin can't.
Okay, a couple things. We have not commented in the past few weeks on how often Ian sniffs. So I just want to get that out because it's very consistent.
I've noticed it a couple of times over the period of time we've been talking about him. It is weird. It is weird. It's like, does he like the smell of like his mustache oil or something? I don't understand. Yeah, it is weird.
But here's the thing. So Justin Bieber's people reached out to Candace Owens, a conspiracy theorist, political commentator. That's not how this realm works. And then Ian, who's reporting on this is horrible, might be the same source. I don't know. I'm just doing a report on it. Says, and then he talked to the Justin Bieber insiders. So here's what I will say. In my entire career in media, there is no crossover between these realms. Hollywood, pop stars, people are not reaching out to fucking conspiracy theorists to have them break their stories on YouTube. That is not how this works at all.
No, but this is that thing we were with the, like for our last episode, her alienness, where we got into what's going on with all of these agencies and whatever it is. Like, I think power was shifted away from Hollywood for a period of time and more towards politics, right, and whatnot. But I think that's become a mess and a little bit unmanageable, and it is not a good look. And so now it's like, well, let's see how we can shift power back towards Hollywood. And it doesn't even have to be making Hollywood look good. It can literally be, let's get these people talking about anything else other than what's going on in our government and how Trump's not doing any of the things he said or whatever it is, right? Like literally, like it's I mean, except for by even saying this, we end up doing the same thing. That Candace will talk about something as important as free speech or the genocide or whatever anyone's calling it going on in Gaza within the same episode that she's talking about Blake Lively and Justin Bieber, and what it's a joke.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
It's like this TMZification.
Yes.
Of the the
I just got a chill when you said that.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Yeah. Let's go to the sandbox and throw mud balls at the kids. Woo! Here we go. All right, guys. Let's see if my thing works. So it seems to be working. Questions, comments, all capital letters, please, so Emily can read them.
Just so people know, the symbol around Blue of Earth's neck is the Templar cross, the Maltese cross. That is a symbol of the Knights Templar.
Matt Moon Crazy, thank you for the super chat. Dead Star Cave Girl, thank you so much for the super chat.
Thank
Jim
you.
Montgomery, I think that you had said somebody did one earlier, didn't you? Who gave us one earlier?
A lovely lady. It might have started with an M.
Okay. Okay, so I think somebody else sent one too. So thank you guys for the super chats. They are greatly appreciated.
Massively appreciated.
All right, let's see. I don't see anything coming in capital letters, so I'm going to go back through and see if I can.
If you guys have any questions for us, please put them in all caps so it makes it easy for us to
identify what. Yes. Oh, did you see that Catherine Austin Fitts was on Tucker Carlson?
Yeah, I dipped in and out.
So I listened to the whole thing.
Okay.
And here's my assessment of it, right? Like Jeff and I had a long call about this the other day. So she said she did Catherine, right? It wasn't like, oh, Tucker Carlson, a whole different person. Wasn't any of that. But all the stories she's told are stories that we've all heard many times over the years. Yep. And Tucker Carlson seemed as entertained and informed by them as whatever. But it just completely cemented something that I've known for a long time, that we've talked about, is that like right now, the things she's saying on there were things that she brought to the alternative information community about 12 or 14 years ago. Correct. So now those things are hitting the mainstream alternative conspiracy thing. So that now it's going to be 12 to 14 years at least for that to sort of catch up. Right. So all those iterations and psyopifications and things that have happened since then, now we get to relive them through the lens of the next layer of people that are waking up to them. And people have to be really careful, not to, okay, because the rest of the world is ready to hear that now, stop what you're working on now to go back and revive the information that you went through 10 or 12 years ago and get stuck there just because that's where the people are. Don't go on your sort of celebrity tour now with your 15-year-old information.
Yep.
Right. That's what it felt like. So it was but then there's also, the idea, and I think we talked about this a little bit on Monday, when we recorded the show that'll be out tomorrow. Some people will say, oh, well, if she's on Tucker Carlson, she's compromised or whatever, right? And did we talk about that on Monday?
We did talk about it, but it's just, when I was on Robert Phoenix, we were talking about, which was Robert's idea, that there's this trifecta that Candace and Ian and Tucker have all teamed up together. I think you and I talked about it a little bit as well. So I feel like all of them are together expanding the Overton
Overton window. Right. And so it's on one level, it's no, the idea, people who, when they get into searching for the truth and talking about it, their idea is to get the message out. So that if they finally get it to a bigger audience, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're compromised. But we also we can't get, we don't need to revisit that information again. We've already been through all that information. Right. And so it's just this interesting moment where we get a really good barometer on having how many more years of listening to the same nonsense are we going to have to live through based on those stories? She was talking about underground bases with him. She was like brought up like Richard Sauter and underground bases and secret space program and things like that. So that is all very old news to everyone. So I'm just hoping that people resist the temptation to like go back and dig back, make that the topic du jour again. Not because there wasn't some level of truth to all of that, but if we slow down whatever paths we're on now, just because there's, wider platforms to talk about the old things, then it accomplishes the task for the fucktards of staying so many yards ahead. Right. So anyway, it was, I did not imagine a version of reality where I would see a community wizard being talked about on the Tucker Carlson show, but I guess stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so we have some all caps questions.
Let's go to them. All right.
Quick one. When is your Slick Dissident interview coming out?
So Slick Dissident, I had some stuff in the can. So it'll probably be out next week or the week after. I can't just dump everything right when I record them, because otherwise I tend to record in clumps and then not for a bit. So it'll probably, I just put out the one with Juan on Monday. So probably not for a week and a half.
Emily, thoughts on Trump directing the Department of Defense and Department of Justice to local law enforcement deploying national security personnel to assist with crime prevention, domestic militarization?
I'm not sure of some specific new thing that's being talked. I don't know.
They're doing this in Albuquerque. We have the National Guard deployed because crime, it is a fucking war zone, but it's only a war zone.
Yes, you told me the thing about Albuquerque. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually talked about that a little bit on Monday's show. But I didn't realize that was coming from Trump specifically. All I can speak of is locally in New Mexico, we need help because Soros has full control of our state. And Albuquerque's so fucking dangerous.
Nigel wants to know if the cult of celebrity needs to be geographically centered in Hollywood. No, in fact, I suggest it's likely to be centered in Austin, Nashville, or Nashville. Nashville is where a lot of it is now too. Okay, so that question you mentioned was from World Tennis Wildlife Truth Fairy. I love that name, World Tennis Wildlife Truth Fairy. Yes, I'm excited for that show to come out too, though it's just not yet. Bingo on Candace Owens promoting pop culture BS as part of the conspiracy. Yep, it's pretty. It's pretty obvious.
Well,
right?
and I also think I think part of one of the main reasons they brought in Ian to play this role is because he's young. They're really going after the youth. So I think that's why another reason why Candace and Ian are going more pop culture.
Yep. And yes, Dani and I talked about Government Cheese at the very beginning of this show today. Yes, I just finished watching Government Cheese, and yes, when you watch the playback, you'll hear our comments on that. And I'm sure I'll do a show about it with, I don't know, Lex or someone. I don't know. We'll see. Les, not Lex. Les. Les Luthor, not Lex Fridman. Les Luthor. Huh?
What platform is it on?
Government Cheese is on Apple.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I think we got all the capital questions.
If anyone's coming to Confluence, I'm speaking Friday. And I'm not going to be here next Wednesday.
Oh, so okay, cool. So no next Wednesday. All right. Good to know. All right.
Is that your first time knowing that?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I told you when I wasn't going to be here before we started and you didn't tell me.
No, I think I told you that a while ago.
I don't remember, but maybe you did. It's possible. I'm not, I haven't been my sharpest lately. We have 144 people. Now it's 146. When I started.
Oh my God, we're the tipping point. We're the 100th monkey.
44,000, right? There you go. But now it's 146. All right, guys, I think we are at the end. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. No next Wednesday, which should just build the anticipation for Dani's triumphant return on the other side. Thank you, Jerusha. What does it say here? Y'all are awesome. I'm so sorry. I'm on an IP hone and it doesn't work well. As you can see, I can barely get a super chat done by the end of the stream. Love y'all. No worries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerusha. Thank you, Jerusha. Thank you. Last question. Are either of you going to Bearteria Festival?
No.
Yes, allegedly Ian Carroll is speaking at Confluence, and I have no opinion on that whatsoever.
We've been covering it for weeks, Nigel. All right, guys, we will see you 2 weeks from tonight. Dani will make her triumphant return. I will be here waiting for her.
Thank you, Lily's mom, for the super chat. Thank you.
Yeah. Lily's got a wonderful mom. All right, guys, we will see you next time.
Wait, Kathleen Smith says we missed her. Did we get a super chat from Kathleen?
No, I didn't see.
We don't want to miss you. We're grateful for all of it.
Yes, my computer doesn't let me see past a certain point back. So
I'm the same. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yes, and you always have thoughtful comments as well, Kathleen. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, guys. We love you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Have a wonderful evening. We love you.